All right, welcome to episode 96 of the At Bat Podcast presented by War Media, where we give you our thoughts on the latest Chicago baseball news, as well as take a trip around the league. I am Saul Rodriguez, joined as always by my co-host Miles Porter, and joined again by our boy Gabe Wilkins, who you can see on his own podcast, The State of Gabe. And we're once again joined by Mike Hughes, who of course is known as the Shy Kid on TikTok, and you can follow him on Instagram as well. So how's everybody doing? How you doing, Miles?
It's I got a lot to say. I'll save it for when we talk about our boys on the north side, and I apologize ahead of time. But I'm about to let it out.
Hey Miles, you're home. You're home, so like now you're not at
I'm
the office
home
this
this
time.
time, so
You're
I
not
can
at the
say whatever the f I want.
I'll make sure that when I upload it, I gotta make sure it's got explicit on there. So you can go off, don't worry. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, we'll definitely talk about the Cubs the waving the wrong white flag. And yeah, it's getting crazy. But how are you doing, Gabe?
I'm doing well, man. But just looking at the state of Chicago baseball on both sides of town right now, it really makes you appreciate what you saw in the early aughts. I can tell you that much because it's like a tale of two different stories, but it's a lot of similarities at the same time, man. If this stuff doesn't get together, like very soon on both sides of town, it's gonna be some real rough summers, and it's gonna be a lot of people that have to fess up and answer to some tough questions from their fan bases.
Oh yeah, That's as good as you could put it because it's getting real tough and it's getting dark real soon. So how about you, Shy Kid? How you doing, man?
I'm okay, baby. I'm okay. You almost called me Gabe. I saw that. You ain't slick. Um, I see. He said, "Get Shy Kid." But nah, I've been
Breaking
good.
news. Yeah, bad podcast. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm in Bears mode. I'm in Bears mode right now. I'm sick of this shit. Yeah, like I'm over it. I'm over baseball right now. Unless there's some in Jed's words, unless there's some major changes in the next upcoming weeks. I think everyone on this panel understands with the rest of this season, just foretells and what's to be seen and what's not. It's gonna be interesting. I'm kind of in trade deadline mode too. I've been seeing all the rumors about Skubal and maybe Jackson Holiday's on the move. There's a lot of things going around, and I still got him in my fantasy team. So I'm praying somebody gives my boy Holiday a shot because the injuries are. I have Yelich as well, so bless. Prayers for Mike and Bob and the Whalers.
I had him too.
It's bad, bro. Man. It's bad. Saul, can I have 2 seconds? I got all of them lifted right here. It started with Acuna. I said, damn. Then it started with Trout. I said, damn. Yamamoto, Fried, Verlander, Bueller, and now Yelich. Bob and the Whalers. I have Ellie and Bob, but I don't think we're going anywhere this year, brother. I think it's
damn. Then we got Mike waving the white flag already too. Man, what a season.
It's bad.
Man, I really had high expectations for 2024, and it's already over. So, but we'll start with. I want to start on the South side this time because, like I said, we'll talk about the Cubs and you brought up with Skubal, Mike. I did want to ask you guys about that too because I want to get you guys' opinion on that because a lot of people are talking about whether he should be traded or not. It's a whole thing with the Tigers, but we'll get into that first. We'll start with Chicago baseball and yeah, it's a lot of people are going to start answering questions real soon, regardless. Gabe and the South side, Chris Getz has already been answering questions. And with the news as we're recording this on Thursday, as I said earlier this morning, it was reported that Garrett Crochet is seeking an extension after he gets traded. And we were talking about this already. We talked about this before we came on, and you were saying it's the right time and all that. And I'll let you say your piece in a sec. I think for me, the only odd thing of the whole thing is, yes, don't get me wrong, he's right. I mean, with the All-Star, with how good he's playing, he definitely could get an extension. I think like the only thing for me is he should have said that after, because now he's probably not going to get traded at the deadline if he wanted to. I'm not saying maybe his thing is he didn't want to get traded at the deadline. Maybe that's the thing. Because I was telling my buddy who texted me, I was like, maybe he didn't want to get traded at the deadline. Maybe that's why he's doing this. And then also he's giving the Sox time in case, let's say out of nowhere they want to sign him to an extension as well, right? So there's a lot of things circulating in my brain right now. But what are your thoughts as we sit here, just days away from the trade deadline, Gabe?
The way I see the whole situation is that, you know, we live in a world now where with this trade deadline, a lot of people like to speculate. A lot of people like to write stories in an effort to ignite interest, not only in their week-to-week columns, but from fans who value prospects so much that they're willing to just give up, you know, assets on their team at the drop of a hat. Garrett Crochet was never, in my opinion, a full-on guarantee to get traded unless if the package was right. And I think what you're seeing now is showing what I've always known, just reading between the lines and following the stories, being involved in major league clubhouses and locker rooms as a kid during this time of year. If that price is not right, Garrett Crochet does not have to get traded before July 31st. That's a fact. They can drag this out all the way into the winter if they would like. And the White Sox with Chris Getz and Garrett Crochet and his representatives at CAA Sports, which is one of the league agencies in the world, if not the United States, they can talk, you know, for the next couple months about this. And they could play this all the way in the spring training. The only thing the White Sox have to do in an effort to maximize on Garrett Crochet's value is to keep him healthy at all costs. And I think that's why you're starting to see him pitch shorter innings. Like he got pulled after 4 innings, and I know a lot of FanDuel gamblers and fans were real PO'd about that. Understandably so. You know, you want to see this guy be the best like he's shown and to be a productive pitcher in the game like he has been all throughout 2024. But as far as him wanting an extension, it makes a lot of sense because you want to be able to not only secure your roots in a place, but you also want to be able to take care of your family. And when you think about everything that Garrett Crochet has been through with a Tommy John surgery a couple of years ago, coming out of Tennessee, it was a lot of questions as to whether or not he could stay healthy consistent. You know, we always knew that the talent was there. You know, this is a guy that bypassed the minor leagues to come straight to the show as a reliever. But in spite of being a successful reliever, always believed in himself to be a starter. And now he's proven that. Now he wants to add tax to what he's worth. And I understand that because when you're making $800,000 a year and you've been one of the top 5 pitchers in baseball, it's only right that you want your money at the end of the day, because what people don't understand is no different with a rich billionaire. The more you make, the more they take anyway, but you do want to maximize on your value. So I understand him wanting the extension, and it's not a foregone conclusion that the White Sox are going to trade Garrett Crochet on July 31st. It could be a foregone conclusion that he gets traded, but it's a waiting game. And one thing Chris Getz has shown, he's not going to fall for the first-year general manager trick. Meaning, like, when you're a first-year GM, everybody always wants you to make that first move because they know you're the biggest seller when you have a bad team. Right. He's not falling for that. He waited it out with Dylan Cease, got Drew Thorpe. Look at how Drew Thorpe is performing. He's a guy that's not just going to go after names, in my opinion, because guys are top 100 prospects. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of these reports come out from like John Heyman, where they're saying, well, the Yankees are willing to include Spencer Jones or Jason Dominguez as part of a Garrett Crochet package.
Yeah, and this thing, like you're talking about, you know, Chris Getz and the deals that he get, like that's the one thing that he's showing early on is that he's waiting for the right deal. He's not jumping, you know, he's not jumping the gun and getting, you know, the first great deal. He's waiting for the right one. And I think that's you know, it's a good sign, at least for a young guy who's barely starting off as a general manager and trying to put together a team for the future. But yeah, no, it's you're right. It definitely, I think, you know, it seems more like, because the White Sox, the thing is, even if they don't trade Crochet, even if they don't trade Robert, they still have like 7 guys to trade. You know what I mean? Like they still have and they can still get a lot with Fetty, DeYoung, Tommy Pham, Michael Kopech, so on and so forth. So yeah, that's one of the things that I was thinking is like, even if he doesn't get traded, They still have a lot more, but I want to get everyone else's thoughts. Mike, what's your thoughts on just the whole crochet situation, as well as just the White Sox heading into the trade deadline?
I think especially coming off a career year, it's warranted. It's definitely something you want for your career. Now, I did give Gabe the world's tiniest violin as he was making that speech about wanting to feed your family, because 800,000. 800,000. I mean, come on, we ain't gonna act like that. It's chump change, but I understand it. I'm paid for what I produce, and you know what I mean. It's like that's the market. This is what I'm giving you, but my pay doesn't coincide with what I'm giving. So it's like it's what it is. It's the name of the game. I will say it's the most Chicago thing I've seen, because, and both on the Reinsdorf side and on the Ricketts side, because you have a 25-year-old stud who is an absolute phenom at this point in time in his season. Obviously, at 3.07 ERA, it isn't, speaking volumes to what this season's been for him. But you look at over 150 Ks on the year. He's been absolutely phenomenal. The whip is incredible. And he's just, I mean, let's be real. He's a good clubhouse guy. I know he doesn't say a lot, but when you have a starting pitcher go out there and your offense is depleted and shits the bed every single game, it's one of those things where we can all attest to it. You see guys get frustrated. You see even the Cubs. Remember we came on this pod and who was it that threw a tantrum in New York and got DFA the very next day? They sent him and the Cubs picked him up. And it's like, it's just one of those things where it's like you have to be a good teammate. And I think Crochet has been everything and more in that count. So I like it. Obviously, I bring up the Chicago part of it because when's the last time you see a 25-year-old and an organization say after the year he had, now we're not trying to extend him. We're just going to let that continue to draw out. Normally, if this was the Dodgers, he would have had an extension already. If this was the New York Yankees, he would have had that extension. So, I think it's just like Gabe said, understanding that he hasn't been extended yet is kind of showing to me, the writings on the walls. Like, hey, listen, we're likely not even going to be a part of that. And the reason that we're not extending you is, one, because we don't see you being here in the foreseeable future. And two, it's a lot cheaper for us and a lot easier for us to be able to move you if you're still on that rookie deal. So I definitely get it. We talked about it before the show started. He's under club control until the end of the 2026 season, if I'm not mistaken, because it does say he's unrestricted free agent in 2027. So I don't think that's the end of 27. I think that's the beginning. So, I think it's going to be interesting. Obviously, there's going to be teams out there like the Orioles who, want to make that move. I made a little joke behind the scenes about, Jackson Holiday, and we'll see what happens with that. But I think there's a lot of guys that are out there right now that'll make a move. Philly could be one of them. I would love, Saul said it, I would love for the Cubs to be in play. I think it would be incredible. Unfortunately, we'll talk about that later. I just don't think that's in the luck of the draw this year. It seems like we don't really ever get much from y'all. We got Bailey Horn and Nick Madrigal. Thanks a lot, Gabe. Like, it doesn't help me at all. So I think it's interesting. Again, for a guy like Gabe and a fan base on 35th and Shields, you hate to see a conversation like that even be had for a 25-year-old who has 2 years left on his deal. You don't want this organization to lose somebody like that, but the return, like you said, if you do wait it out, you could potentially get the bang for your buck if you play the right cards.
And what about you, Miles? What are your thoughts on this? Because as Mike said, you don't want to hear this with a dude that's 25, but it's just the way the White Sox are set up, and at the end of the day, it's and I was gonna say this too, is with, because I know I hear a lot of Sox fans are like saying like, hey, look, they gotta, if they keep Crochet, they keep Robert, they just gotta go sign free agents. Like, bro, they don't sign free agents. Like, exactly. At the end of the day, they just don't do it. Like, I wish they did. But they don't do it. And after signing Benintendi, they're probably not going to go off and do that too. Which, hey, Gabe, I hope I'm wrong, and Chris Getz goes out there and because they really are, like, even without Crochet, even without Robert, you come back next year with this rotation, with these guys, like you obviously are like a few pieces away from being back like in 27 or something like that. But I know you want to say something, Gabe, before Miles.
One thing I'll say real quick.
Yeah.
The reason why Garrett Crochet and him getting traded is up for discussion is because if you take a look at the White Sox farm system, what is their biggest strength right now?
Pitching.
It's pitching.
Yeah.
They just drafted Hagen Smith, and they gave him an $8 million signing bonus. That's the largest signing bonus for a left-handed pitcher.
Yeah.
In the history of the draft. He's more than likely going to be up here sometime next year in 2025.
Sure.
More than likely before July 1st. So, like when you have him with Noah Schultz and Drew Thorpe, that's why this is a conversation. Now, yeah, I would like for them to keep Garrett Crochet too. And yes, they do need to spend some money, but it's about how you spend that money too. Because we've seen on the other side of town, no pun intended, you can spend and have a payroll over 230 million, but if your offense ain't hitting for shit, it don't matter how great your starting pitching is, you're gonna be out of it.
I think that's a great point, but in that same breath, I've talked to Saul about this before, and I think that's why you never see a guy like Justin Steele in those legitimate trade conversations. There's always rumors here and there, Barstool Sports or somebody will say it, but you never really hear that through the pipeline. And I think a reason for that is, even though you have Ben Brown, Cade Horton, Jordan Wicks, Caleb Killian, sorry, still fresh, Hayden Wesneski and all these guys, that's great. And the idea of Cade Horton is incredible. But at the end of the day, when someone is entering that ace level kind of zone in their career, it's kind of hard to move off of that when all you have to replace them is guys who have never been in the show before. So I hear where you're coming from, because I think the Cubs are in a very similar situation right now when it comes to their pitching prospects. I think we're great. I think we could be very special in the next couple of years. And Cade Horton probably is one of the next big dogs at Wrigley Field. But in that same breath, if you have an all rookie rotation, all guys still on rookie deals, who's going to be the ace of that team? Kind of like 2016 Cubs, we talk about it, without a Jake Arrieta and a John Lester, who is Kyle Hendricks? You know what I mean? Who is all these other guys? You have to bring in these veterans, these guys who can help develop them at the major league level. Because to that point, we talk about it all the time. I mean, no one's really helping you grow when you enter the majors. Single A, hey man, we'll help you wipe your butt. We'll help you get ready and move into your apartment. Cool. Double A, we're helping you with your hitting. AAA, whatever, just getting ready for the show. Once you're in the show, you don't got time to learn. You going every single day. We're in a new place. So you need to learn off of your teammates. And if everybody in that room is learning at the same time, I don't think that always truly benefits you. So I think a guy like, Garrett Crochet still being there through the bad times. Hey man, I was here when we were 50 games under 500. Sorry, Gabe. But that's just me. That's just how I would think of it.
Yeah, no, I mean that's yeah, you're right. I mean that's the one thing. Like, yeah, in a perfect world, it'd be nice. They have a setup where, like, if they were to keep Crochet and Robert, like, even with the prospects they have. But I think Chris Getz is just trying to, like, expedite the process and trying to get there quicker with younger position players and all that. And I think, yeah, I mean, I get it from a certain extent. But Miles, what are your thoughts on this whole situation and the way the White Sox are going to go through the trade deadline and how you feel about that?
I think it's interesting, kind of like what Mike said, because historically, I don't know. My understanding is that the White Sox have not really spent a lot of money on players. I think Andrew Benintendi is one of the highest contracts. Yeah. So from a player standpoint, from Garrett Crochet's standpoint, I am hoping that he is moved and he gets what he feels that he deserves, coming from a player's perspective. From, like, a fan perspective, I would love to see the White Sox keep these guys and build in this sort of way. But Gabe, you know this way better than I do. I don't know how healthy the farm system is. So maybe it is worth them moving Garrett Crochet at the deadline and maybe getting a few more pieces. The Sox are in a very unfortunate position. But right now, what fans have to look forward to is the future. So with this organization, kind of being in the state that it's in, I would try to get as many pieces as possible. That's exactly how I would move. What are they? 50 games under 500, whatever.
Yeah.
Dude,
27 and 77.
Oh, that's effing unfortunate, bro. That's so I'm if I'm Chris Getz, I'm trying to build towards the future as much as I can.
Yeah, and you talk when you talk about the prospects. Yeah, I mean that it's funny because, like, I feel like the feeling around the White Sox is that that they feel that after building a Chris Sale, after building a Garrett Crochet, they feel very confident that they can build another pitcher like that. I mean, with Noah Schultz, for example. I mean, which I don't blame him. I mean, I see it. Like, I see when you were talking about, like, trading Crochet, I kind of see the vision in the sense of, like, what they have and what they've created before, they can create again. I mean, they're stacked with pitching with Iriarte. They have Kai Bush in the minors too. Like they have dudes everywhere. So it's like I kind of see what they're trying to do. Go ahead, Gabe.
I've been a White Sox fan for 30 years.
Damn. Sorry, Gabe.
That's pitch for the team, all that. One thing about the White Sox, Miles, they're always going to develop pitching.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They always going to keep solid lefties. Mark Burley, Chris Sale, Carlos Rodon. Those are guys that have been all-stars for
Jose Quintana.
Eric Crochet. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the list goes on and on. The lefties have always been the aces of the White Sox rotation when they were clicking. But when the White Sox were the White Sox had a tremendous job, or did a tremendous job of hitting for power. Ain't no thumpers in this lineup outside of Luis Robert Jr. You know, there's no consistent power production. You look at the top 30 White Sox prospects, over half of them, according to MLB Pipeline, if you look at that list, they're all pitchers. You need positional players in depth, specifically within the middle area of your infield and in the outfield. Guys that can hit for power, immediate impact bats, guys that are like no lower than high A, that can be up here within the next year and a half to 2 years. White Sox fans don't question the success of the pitching staff. It's the hitters. Like Brian Bannister right now is doing a hell of a job as a director of pitching. What the White Sox need is a hitting version of Brian Bannister.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they need. Because if I'm being real, the White Sox really haven't developed a true star in their farm system since Frank Thomas. And you got to go all the way back to what, 1989? When Frank was drafted out of Auburn?
Damn.
You know, he came up real quick. Like by 90, he was up here. So that's the problem, is they've never been able to develop immediate impact bats. Like Tim Anderson was really the last one. That was a homegrown talent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now they got lucky with Carlos Lee and Maglio Ordonez as international signings, but at the time that didn't require them to spend a lot of money. Like the question that White Sox fans won't answer is, can you develop bats?
Yeah.
The White Sox have never spent money on pitching either. If it's one thing Reinsdorf has proven in his tenure as an owner that he will pay for, it's a positional player. It may not always be the positional player that's worth paying top dollar for, but he's done it with Albert Bell, Yasmani Grandal, Andrew Benintendi. You know, they'll do that. But pitching, no. That's why everybody was so shocked when he gave John Danks all that money that led to Mark Burley departing and going to Miami 12 years ago.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. And when it comes to them developing and all that I could see it now, like going back and seeing other pitchers and what they have done. But one last thing I did want to ask you, Gabe, when it comes to Crochet and all that is, you brought up Frank Thomas, which reminded me of something that he said on one of the pre-games this week, and talking about how, you know, because I've been one of the people that have said, hey, when he gets traded, if a lot of teams might want to limit his innings because the first year that he's a starter. So throw him in the bullpen. That's going to be nasty for a team like the Yankees, who need some bullpen help, the Dodgers, who could use some bullpen help. Well, you know, whoever it is, right? But Frank Thomas said on a pregame show saying, like, no, forget that. Like, he basically said, forget it. Like, Crochet has said, he said, what did Crochet say? That this whole pitching every 5 days is working out for him. He likes that. So I guess that's off the table. I wonder if that also played a part in him not being, maybe, like I said, I'm just assuming here that, like, with him saying that he wants an extension, maybe scaring off teams that don't want to give him an extension. Maybe that plays a part in it, because, you know, if he doesn't want to come out from the bullpen, which I'm sure a lot of teams were considering doing that to limit his innings. I know I had a friend that's a Yankees fan saying that he said that they wouldn't do that because the Yankees usually don't believe that. Well, Luis Gil, for example, he's not going anywhere. He's going to keep pitching the same thing. So maybe it wouldn't happen, but other teams, I wouldn't be surprised if other teams did that, especially specifically in October. If you already have a stacked rotation, maybe they're like, hey, you know what? We'll throw you whatever. Maybe he didn't want to do that. But what are your thoughts on that and how that maybe affected the trade deadline and what things are happening around the White Sox?
I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're used to taking a ball every fifth day, you don't want to switch away from that routine. if you're Garrett Crochet. Remember, Garrett Crochet, prior to the end of last season, kept saying, I know I'm a starter. All I need is an opportunity to prove it. He got his opportunity to prove it. And since opening day, when he was named the starter of the White Sox for opening day, he's done nothing but show up and show out. So I can't blame him, because let's be real. If he was to go to the Los Angeles Dodgers, they're putting him in the bullpen. Or otherwise, they have to run a 6-man rotation. And I don't think that makes a lot of sense economically for those guys, you know, with Kershaw and them coming back and the like that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So when you see those reports that the Dodgers are really interested, and I know that the Dodgers are interested because I was at the game when he pitched against the Dodgers, and I saw some scouts sitting behind home plate from my vantage point. And I saw them with their radar guns and tracking him and whatnot all across the stadium. If they're is interested enough to give up some of their top prospects for him, yeah, they're going to put him in the bullpen at some point. And they may let him be a spot starter. And I think he's tired of that. And that's what Frank is speaking on. Is someone who knows Frank like I do, and I've watched him and I've been around him behind the scenes at the prime and peak of his career. Like, he knows that. Like, when you in a certain routine, you don't want nobody messing with that. And I think that's where he's speaking from.
Yeah, and to just that financial point, you know, I think, you know, okay, I'm going to pay this guy to be a spot up starter, but mainly coming out of the pen. No, I'm trying to get paid like an ace. I'm trying to be one of the best pitchers in baseball, like I have been. So I think that understanding of, you need to know who I am. Like that's what it is at the end of the day, because I can't make ace money if from August 15th on, I just came out of the pen, because then it just messes up your whole flow. It messes up other things with other organizations who might want to bid on you. They're going to say, well, why'd you come out of the pen here? Why'd you come out of the pen there? Now for the Dodgers, I like it because Glasnow and all these guys, Bobby Miller fell off the face of the earth. Philly just sent him to the shadow realm. You know, so, you know, you got a lot of guys banged up, you know, Walker Buehler's banged. So I think Garrett might walk into LA just to play devil's advocate. He might take somebody's job like a Walker Buehler. Like, your name value, sure, that's cool. But if he's wheeling and dealing and we're trying to win a World Series after throwing a Billy at the entire payroll, I mean, you like that? So you throw a little Billy at the payroll. You know, I think you have to have that conversation. But if I'm Garrett, I'm not going for that. Like, I'm either in this rotation and I'm in the top 3 and I'm not 3. Like, that's really what it would be for me, unless I'm on a very rare instance where you have some of the best rotations in baseball.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I think also the last thing I want to mention with the White Sox is, of course, like I said, I mentioned Eric Fetty, Tommy Pham, Michael Kopech, all the guys like that. Is there any particular spot you see one of those guys going to another team? Maybe, you know, for example, a Fetty. I know Fetty's been showing that he's been getting interest from the Cardinals. You know, and maybe interest from I feel like the Orioles should be a great spot for him too. But Miles, is there any particular White Sox you see going anywhere in particular? Like, you know, Tommy Pham, I feel like fits anywhere. Michael Kopech, I feel like can fill a lot of voids for a lot of teams. I feel like Kopech is a great project for a lot of teams too. Like, if he goes to the White Sox, I bet you like next year he's like one of the best relievers in the game. Like, I mean, they fixed Luke Weaver, dude. They got Michael Tompkin in there. Like, you know, so you see anybody in particular, you know, getting like an Eric Fetty or Tommy Pham like that?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see Tommy Pham moving around somewhere. And then when it comes to pitching, I can see so many teams that are looking for arms. The Dodgers are kind of an interesting scenario to me right now, because I think they have a lot of arms that are actually injured at the moment. So I can see that as a potential landing spot for Eric Fetty. Tommy Pham's crazy. He probably belongs in the asylum. I can see him going anywhere. Yeah. I part of my mind is I'm preparing my Cubs notes at the moment, so I apologize because I'm about to go off. But yeah, you know, the Sox have some really good pieces that they're able to move at this deadline, because teams are really looking for a lot of these guys that they have. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, they're loaded. So, Gabe, is there
going to Houston?
Oh, Andrew Vaughn going to Houston? Okay, all right.
The reason why I can see it is because they need production at first base since they let go of Jose Abreu.
Yeah.
And with Andrew Vaughn starting to turn a corner a little bit, I think being on a contender where he's not asked to hit in the cleanup spot day in and day out could be a blessing in Houston's farm system. It's not the best, but they do have some decent guys at the top. And I'm looking at a guy named Bryce Matthews in Double-A right now, and I'm wondering if that's a piece they might be willing to give up, who could play in the middle of the infield, play one of the corner spots in the outfield. And, they got Jacob Melton. It's some, like, the White Sox in Houston, they've been known to do some deals quite often recently. Remember last year, that's how the White Sox got Corey Lee. They gave up Kendall Graveman, so
Corey Julks too.
Watch out for him. Yeah, Corey Julks as well recently. Yep.
Yeah, so that's a good one. That's because I think a lot of people aren't thinking about the guys that have been there for a while. They think more thinking about like a Fetty or guys that have been the shorthand. So I mean, it's a good point that they can move somebody like that. Even a guy like Gavin Sheets, I feel like is intriguing to a team that needs like left-handed power or something like that. Like I know that he hasn't shown what a lot of White Sox fans hoped he was, but like you never know. Like with a guy like people want Kopech, so like I think they could fix a guy like that. But what about you, Mike? You got anyone in particular you think? Maybe somebody low key from the White Sox that would go somewhere or is it somebody like Fetty or Pham?
I have a team that I'm kind of paying attention to more so than any of the players. I think any of the players could really be in that conversation outside of Luis and Crochet, but I think the New York Mets are a team that I'm looking at to potentially get a guy like Tommy Pham, get a guy who is kind of not going to require top level prospects, but you're looking at the team right now in the wild card standings. They're right behind the Braves. The Braves are 54 and 46 and the Mets are 53 and 48. And, we all understood that, my guy, Mike Powers, diehard Mets fan, he said going into the season, absolute shit show, absolute rebuild. And we're going to talk about the Cubs and what Jed said in a little bit, but sometimes you have to go off of what you've seen so far. And this team is showing up and showing out for each other. So, you're not going to go all in on getting a Garrett Crochet or getting a Justin Steele caliber pitcher. But, for a team that's 53 and 48 on what was supposed to be a rebuilding year, you could have a little Cinderella season of what can be going into 2025 when you have guys like Drew Gilbert coming up, Acuna's little brother coming up, Luis Acuna. There's so many guys that they're going to be having coming through that pipeline. But if, a guy like a Tommy Pham could potentially, be that guy to come in and kind of be that veteran presence on a young team, maybe you could see something like that. That's really where I'm at. I think you're going to see lower end moves, but maybe that's more productive for a team that's actually winning, because Tommy Pham looks a hell of a lot better on Slam Diego than he does on the 50 under Chicago White Sox, who haven't produced more than 10 runs since the All-Star break. So, and also Cubs are in that same boat. The Cubs and Sox are the only team who haven't had more than 10 runs since the All-Star break. So that's definitely a conversation to have right now about just
to run through a wall.
I mean, yeah, that's where I was a little different. I was gonna jump off shit, but if you want to run through a wall too, hey, we can all do it in so many different ways, but
yeah,
we're all leaving.
Yeah, no, you're right, and you bring up the Mets, which I mean, I'm a firm. I've been since they started this little run, which I'll preface by saying that they're I saw a tweet that they were like in the last 60 days they're the only team with a winning percentage over 600. So they're going off, but I was gonna say is that I've never really been a believer of this year's Mets.
No, me neither.
Yeah, because I mean I don't trust that rotation in the playoffs. I don't think their hitters are gonna hit that well in the playoffs. I think they're getting hot now, but that's just me. Maybe I'm being a hater, but I don't believe
that's a beautiful point. Like I love that, and that's why I'm saying like they're not gonna get a Crochet, but they're not gonna waste their prospects. They knew this year was a rebuild year, but you could give a little chump change for a Tommy Pham because the Sox are just happy to get anything for him at this point. They got him for damn near nothing in the middle of April, so I think it's a win-win in my opinion.
Yeah, and even you splash in a Fetty in that rotation, then I feel like it changes a little bit.
Sure.
It's Luis Severino and Eric Fetty. Yeah,
I could actually see that because they do need rotational help, and if they are willing to give up a player like Ronnie Mauricio, I could see that one. But I do think there may be some better offers out there.
Sure, that's always the problem.
I think Milwaukee would be in the mix for Eric Fetty. I wouldn't be surprised if a team like Cleveland is in the mix for Eric Fetty. I think there'll be several teams in the mix for Eric Fetty, and I wouldn't be shocked if he was able to fetch them like a top 100 prospect, like near the bottom tier.
Yep, 100%. Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, it's going to be a crazy trade deadline, and we'll definitely be here to, go over it with the White Sox once that happens. But there's going to be some busy, front office men in the north side of Chicago too with the Cubs, because we're sitting here July 25th. They're 49-55, 5 games out of a wild card spot. But just some days ago, Jed Hoyer, for all intents and purposes, has waved the white flag on this season, saying they're going to be thinking about 2025 and beyond. And yeah, I mean, in a season where I think we all thought, at least I can speak maybe for like Mike and Miles, that we we were really out here thinking postseason for the Cubs. And it's not gonna doesn't look like it's gonna happen. I mean, this is a team that it has one of the best rotations in the game. They have a top 3 rotation in baseball, and they cannot hit. Their bullpen has been one of the best bullpens in the game since June, and they cannot hit. So most of the year when people were complaining about the bullpen, which I was one of them, at the end of the day, what was the problem? Hitting, and they can't hit. And yeah, I mean, look, I've heard many people say that there's no reason why, I was watching a podcast yesterday with a former GM and Jim Bowden talking about there's no reason why they should sell, that he should go out there. The Cubs should go out there, and all they need is a guy that can help them score a few more runs, and they'll be in the playoffs, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I don't see it. And I personally don't see it because I feel like the rest, I think 1 or 2 guys didn't really change the way this lineup is hitting, because it's atrocious. So yeah, I mean, the Cubs are here, and looking forward to 2025. But Miles, I'll lay out the red carpet for you, because I know you have a lot to say. And I'm sure you're speaking for a lot of Cubs fans. Go ahead.
Bro, I'm pissed off. I am so sick and tired of this, bro. And by the way, I was one of the Cubs fans earlier this year where I was just like, there were Cubs fans who were sort of bitching in the beginning where that month of April, they were a very fun team to watch, and there were Cubs fans complaining about little things here and there. I was like, shut the fuck up, shut up. This is early, right? Fast forward to July 2024. Dude, it's so hard to watch. I'm not even just going to go into just everything. There's no fire from this team. It's just like flat, bland. They're like peanut butter and jelly without jelly and peanut butter. They're bland. They go out there and you just know that they are just they look defeated. Craig Counsell, can you do something? Can you show some fire? How many terrible calls has Seiya Suzuki struck out on over the past week? Granted, we need more out of him, but at the same time, Craig, you're the manager. Go out there, get thrown out, show some fire. It can't just be up to Justin Steele in Milwaukee almost a month ago, whatever the heck that was, for him to show some fire, and Shota Imanaga, who shows so much emotion. Hey, fun fact about the Cubs, this is a team that has a lot of soft-spoken guys. Someone has to show fire. It ain't going to be Ian Happ. I've never seen him smile one time while hitting a home run. Cody Bellinger is just there. He's just vibing. Dansby Swanson's a nice dude. Nico Horner, he's a smooth dude. None of these dudes are going to walk around like, yeah, what's up? You know, the differences between the teams that are winning and the teams like the Cubs is like a team like the Phillies, they have attitude. A team like the Yankees, they have attitude. Jose Siri pimps a little bullshit little home run the other day, and Juan Soto returns the favor. He takes his time running the bases. That kind of attitude. You know what's funny? Because so I remember when Wilson Contreras went to the Cardinals, and he made certain comments about the Cubs, and Cubs fans were pissed off at him about that. First of all, I love Wilson Contreras. I don't have a single hatred. I have no hatred towards Wilson. I love him. Okay. One of my favorite catchers of all time. I don't know if he was wrong, because if we're going to be talking about culture, and when you look at the Cubs, who is showing some sort of emotion? And by the way, we have to manufacture runs. We have to just conjure up runs from the depths from the baseball gods. It is so frustrating to watch. Maybe a little blue single, and then a ground ball to the right side that moved the runner over to second, and then maybe it was a pass ball that get the runner from second to third, and then a sac fly. Great job. We have one fucking run. Amazing. Great. We're not dealing with a lot of players who are driving runs in. Dude, and the pitching has been incredible. We have to give our hats off to Imanaga, Steele, Taillon. It's just incredible. And the bullpen doing their job finally. I'm not specifically upset with the players because they are doing the best that they can. None of them are going out there and not trying. I know the PCA experiment has not gone very well to this point. I'm not mad at him. My issue is so much with Jed right now. I'm tired of the Cubs being a big market team with a small market mentality. Knock it off. Our farm system is very healthy. We had something. We had something this year, and Jed just kind of made these little BS little moves, whatever. Didn't really address things here and there, and now look at us. Now look at us. We're in late July, already waving the red flag. Hey, the Pirates have a better record than us. They're not even trying to win, dude. That pisses me off so much. Wrigley's packed every single night. Are you kidding me? 37,000 on a Tuesday night after a rain. Are you kidding me, bro? This is coming from a place of love. This is coming from someone who obviously loves this team and grew up with the Cubs and this team's my heart and soul. So this is just passion speaking. But I am just the average Cubs fan, an average baseball fan. A lot of them aren't as in depth as we are when it comes to talking about prospects and what to look forward to in the future. Most fans, and I think really of any sport, care about on the product in the field currently. And Jed Hoyer has failed us when it comes to addressing that. Why is Miles Mastrobuoni playing over David Bote when David Bote's in 300? I don't know. I told my girlfriend I'm so sick and tired of seeing it. I don't believe Miguel Amaya is the answer. Now look at us. I really hope that these issues are addressed in the off season. I was very enthusiastic coming into this year, so that's where this frustration comes from. Going to the games with Mike and recording videos, and Saul, you and I went to a game earlier this year. Just having a great time, and Wrigley's is the best place to be when the team is winning. And even when the team isn't winning, it's still fun, but it's better when the team is doing well. And the fact that we're here now and things haven't been addressed, and there's such a blandness in this organization. It pisses me off so much. I just want to see us be better in the future. Make moves. We don't have home runs. Go buy home runs. You know what I mean? We don't have guys that are getting consistent base hits. You have to spend money. You have to. I don't want to hear about the payroll. This is a big market team with a small market mentality. You have to do something and then incorporate the new generation of these players into that, and then watch it unfold. Don't just throw out what you threw out last year. Things don't go well, and then like, oh well, we're gonna make moves for 2025 and beyond. Man, Chad, you and me, bro. I'm good.
I feel you.
No, yeah, that's
from the other side of the shit. I feel you. You know what I'm saying? Even though we may express our emotions in different ways, I get it. I get it, man. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, because I mean it's true. I mean, like it really and Mike has said this before, and I'll give Mike some time to speak, but like Mike has said it before that Jed Hoyer may believe in this team, but it's not this specific team, not this team to this roster this season, right, Mike?
Yeah, no, that's really where I'm at, and I've really, since having that conversation, and then a few days later, hearing Jed actually reiterate that, it made me mad. Like I know a lot of people are like, yeah, oh, I was right, I knew it. I don't like that shit. No, I hate that shit. Yeah. I was hoping to be wrong about what you said, but that was just how I felt it, and that was the vibe I got out of it. And I've heard Ian Happ say you got to make it hard for Jed to do his job. I've heard Nico say the same thing. And of course, Craig Counsell beats the same drum that, offense scores runs and pitching wins games. So yeah, thanks for that again for the 80th something time this season, because I'm getting pretty tired of hearing Craig Counsell, who was one of my favorite managers, just continue to reiterate that you need to hit the ball in order to win. Even though I saw them have bubblegum helmets after a walk-off win, which they walked off that win because they got walked. And that was literally the only reason you won that fucking game. So I don't know why we celebrated it like it meant anything. It meant a lick. Take the fucking hat off your head, you dumb. I'm not even going to. Yeah, it's crazy. But it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? A bunch of white boys playing bubblegum hopscotch in the dugout. I'm over it, bro. Like that shit's not going for me. And Seiya Suzuki to me was the dark horse of this team that I thought could have been that guy. Obviously that oblique injury did impact him in a big way. I think whether a lot of people believe it or not, because in the beginning of April, I mean, he's slapping 400, you're hitting home runs left and right. Miles and I saw several home runs from Seiya Suzuki in a span of 2-3 games we went together. And that was just the kind of tear he was on. And to have that same oblique strain that kept him out at the beginning of spring training last year, definitely, and the beginning of the season was pretty frustrating. Obviously, Happer, Miles knows I hate Happer with a passion. But I'll give him his flowers. He's been batting over 350 over the last few weeks, and for him to be able to have that type of success, even though I know that it's not long term, it's not something that I'm going to bank my money on, because we saw how it was in his All-Star year and what happened the following year. To him have that success and still not be able to produce runs is very frustrating. And I think that's something where we talk about the energy, we talk about the life of this team. It's just not there. These are guys, these are 9-to-5ers. These are blue collar guys. I think these guys pull up and they're ready to just play baseball. But that energy, that fun part of the game just doesn't really seem to reflect with this type of team. There's Christopher Morel, there's Justin Steele, Shota Imanaga, and that's cool. But this team, in my personal opinion, I wouldn't say hangs out with each other outside of baseball. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say that they really have that type of connection. And maybe I'm wrong, and I'm sure they have a relationship, but I think what's key when you have those Cinderella stories is when you have the Brizzos, when you have the Schwarbinos, when you have the John Lesters and the Jake the Snake and Grandpa Rossi. Those are the teams that have fun. Those are the teams. I mean, Joe Madden having all the fun shit before he turned into the grand wizard of knowing matchups. But, he used to, make everything so much fun and make everything so light. With Craig, it just kind of feels like, and again, there's more conversations that are going on internally than they're going to lead on. At the end of the day, what I'm going to tell media is we need to hit the ball, because after 3 months of saying that, that's probably what I would say too. Gabe and I spoke about, the managing of the White Sox and it kind of feeling depleted, kind of like you already, put your cards down in the middle of June. And that was my words, not Gabe's words. But, I think that's where Craig's at as well. So it's definitely frustrating. And the last point I would make is I completely stand by what I said, is you bring in Craig Counsell to babysit your kids, which is Owen Casey, PCA, and the boys. James Triantos, BJ Murray, Shaw, whoever, Cam Smith. So many dogs in this organization right now that aren't here. The problem for me is I just saw the Texas Rangers, who had Wyatt Langford in AAA and Jack Leiter, who is the hottest thing since Pants with Pockets in Vanderbilt. And you still went out and got Corey Seager. You still went out and got DeGrom. You still went out and got Scherzer. You still went out and got Simeon. And you won a championship and still have one of the best farm systems. Like, the Texas Rangers scare the fuck out of me because they cared before, they care now, and they care tomorrow. And right now, for me, if I'm looking at Jed, that's your little schoolboy Q. That's cool. If you want to have all these kids in the playground just waiting for them to pick them up at 3:30, but brother, you might be fired at 3:15 because you're fucking around too much. And when you fuck around, you find out. And I think that's really what it's going to come down to, is you might keep Craig and the boys, but that don't mean we're going to keep you. So at some point there's going to be answers. And if Craig Counsell and the boys aren't hot by July 2025, Jed, that's your ass, because you put yourself in this situation. Nobody else did this for you. Nobody else said trade the franchise first baseman and don't replace him for 4 years. Nobody said, hey, Wilson Contreras looks like the captain of this team. And I did say F him earlier after those comments, but I will still say those comments would have never been made if you did your due diligence and kept the catcher that everybody said you should have kept. Now, do I clown him for being a somewhat horrible defensive catcher and not being able to hit from time to time? Of course, but that's only because he's a Cardinal. If he was a Cub, I'd be like, that's Willie. But a guy like Wilson Contreras is that spark, is that bat that Miles and Saul was talking about. And to let a guy like that go and to not replace him, or to replace him with Yan Gomes and Nitto and Miguel Amaya, who was fresh off of Tommy John surgery and still has fucking braces, And it's wild to me. And shout out to everybody with braces, but the kid was like 19. He had no business being called up. And I think that no time in AAA either, which was the craziest part, like barely any. And you're doing the same thing with Moises Balestros. He plays 50 something games in AA. He's batting 299, and that's cool. But now you're nervous, so you sent him to AAA, and I'm sure they'll send him up at some point in August. That's what frustrates me is PCA can't hit a lick, and there's a reason for that. We talked. I'm so long winded right now, and I'm sorry, but like, you bank yourselves on these prospects and then you rush these prospects, which is blowing the fuck out of me, is because PCA shouldn't be here right now. And you said that at the beginning of the season that you didn't want to waste his talent on the bench. And that's exactly what he's done. So, I see what you're talking about. Hey, I'm going to go to the gym every day at 5 a.m. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to get a 9-to-5 job. I'm going to make my mama proud. That's all great things to say. But then you're waking up at 11:30 in the afternoon. You wake up, eat a Hershey's wrapper, or eat a Hershey's bar, some Reese's Pieces, and then you got no job. So what are you doing? You got to live by what you say. Practice what you preach. Don't make me get Gabe out here because he's got all the biblical verses to hit your ass with, Jed Hoyer. Like, I'm telling you, like, I see nothing so far. And I see the future, but I'm worried for them. Because I know if it wasn't for Ian Happ being locked up on this contract, if it wasn't for Seiya Suzuki being here, you would have already called up Owen Casey. You would have already called up James Triantos and threw him in center field, like I've seen several times thus far. And I even spoke to Gabe about it. Why the fuck is James Triantos in center field in AA right now? What are we doing? Like, he's a fucking second baseman. Oh, yeah, we're going to figure something out. No, don't. I know James personally. Don't fuck with him. That pisses me off. Like, you have great cats over here, bro. And you were blessed with Shota Imanaga. Like, it whatever. It is what it is. Like I said, go Bears.
Not the Padres trading for Luis Arias in May.
Yeah, for nothing.
Oh my.
Couldn't have got me a Luis Arias. I didn't need Luis Arias. No. What else? Batting title? No, I don't need that. I got Christopher Morel.
Man. I mean, yeah. I mean, you guys, I mean, I don't know. I mean, can't think of like, I mean, the one thing I'll say is that with PCA, I'm okay with him being up here, but like, if you're gonna, the thing is, we talked about this, like, if you just gotta play him every day, and if you want to develop his bat up here, that's fine, because defensively he's already one of the best center fielders in the game. Like, I get the frustration with his bat. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think the one thing I see is timing. Like, if he's up here now in a year where you're trying to compete for a division, it's a little frustrating. I do see that part.
Saul, tell me right now he's not Albert Amora Jr.
Well, he's not, because he played better defense. His bat is a pitcher right now.
The same principle as Albert. You know what I mean? Like, you rushed Albert, and Albert was never really going to be that guy offensively.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Well, PCA isn't either, though. He's never going to be.
I don't think so. And I think that's what they want to make him out to be. Gabe says it all the time. When I say, hey, I got a number one prospect for you, top 15 in the pipeline. Why do you think Gabe doesn't want PCA? Why do you think no one else wanted PCA? Here's the biggest question. For Javier Baez, a rental who was on the down end of his career, why do you think the New York Mets gave up their number one prospect?
I will say they gave him up when he was like a teenager, though. So, I mean, like, it's really easy to give up teenagers, though. Like,
that's my point, though. Is the kid didn't go to college. The kid didn't fucking care. He has the fattest ego in the world, and I'll preach that right now. I'm sick of it, because Nico acts there acting like he's Nico Suave. Dansby Swanson is acting like he's too good for anybody because he's a fucking Vanderbilt boy, and they're all a bunch of douchebags. And then you have a guy like PCA who thinks he's the hottest thing since Pants with Pockets, when really he just looks like Machine Gun Kelly who can't hit a whip. And that's really what it comes down to, bro. Like, he posts his girlfriend on Instagram all the time. That's cool. You're posting all the swag. You're hanging out with Jazz Chisholm. Keep hanging out with Jazz. See how far that gets you. Because look at Jazz right now. He's fucking dog shit, and all he does is talk. Like, that's what it comes down to. And I'm mad. Like, I'm not even trying to like do this for a bit. Like, it's real life. Like, me, I'm 5'7". I've torn my Achilles and separated my shoulder 3 times with probably 5 concussions. I know where I stand, but know where you stand. Because when I hear you come up there every day and say, yeah, I'm gonna just keep doing the same thing because I know it's gonna start working eventually. No, I'm trying to figure it out in my head, Saul. Like, why? Why do you want PCA up here right now? Because if in September, when you go 0 for 10, okay, I'm not taking any of that into consideration. You skipped college, you flew him through the pipeline. I get it. It is July. You suck. You're not hitting for power. you're not hitting for contact. Oh, wow. But look at his, I got a stopwatch. That's the highlight of my day at Wrigley Field is I have a stopwatch to see how fast he went from first to third. And he's probably out because he shouldn't have overran third. That's really what it comes down to. So for me, it's like, if I'm just looking off of these, it's like you guys watched Hard Knocks with the New York Giants and we're, oh man, look at his 40 time. Look at his 40 time. I don't give a fuck about his 40 time. Can he hit the ball? Like, is that what we're talking about? Like, I don't like. It's like we're taking moral wins in July when this was supposed to be a team that some people thought could potentially make it to the NLCS. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy, and that's why I'm like a douchebag right now and acting like a jerk. But like, I mean, you've been stepping on my foot for the last 3 months, and now I'm looking at you and I'm like, hey man, fuck you. And well, what? What 2025? I don't care. I don't care. We are 8 years removed from 2016. I don't care. I don't care anymore. It was 26. Respectfully, as great as 2016 was, that core, that run wasn't good enough. It wasn't, because the Dodgers weren't really even the Dodgers. You should have been there earlier. 2015 was a blessing, cool. But I mean, for 2017 to 2021, to just shit the bed the way they did. And those teams are so very similar. Like that 2018 team against the Colorado Rockies in the wild card is so tell me it's not the same exact team as it is right now. Oh, great pitching, can't hit. Yeah. Like, I mean, what it's been 6 years of this.
Well, I will say 2016 that, I mean, the Dodgers are never the Dodgers though in the playoffs, for the record. Sure. I'll say that. 2016. I agree with you though. It's been a long time ago. Like, we got to move on. But like 2016, I will say I can't say nothing bad about that team.
It's
but
the best.
You're right
year
though.
Of my life. It's the best year of my life.
You're right. But I mean, I don't disagree with much of what you're saying, because I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I mean, the way they talked about this year, the way they planned for it, it just, yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm okay with him being up here PCA, but like I understand the argument of like, what's the point if like they're trying to win? But I think that also plays into what you said about Jed though. Maybe that's what Jed wasn't seeing this year as a winning year, and he's like, you know what? Let's bring up PCA. What's the worst that could happen? And like the thing is, like,
you fuck him up. That's the worst thing that happens. Yeah, long term, he's fucked up.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So but it's also a double-edged sword, because you got a lot of organizations rushing dudes up now. And I think a lot of organizations, for example, like I know the Angels are not a good baseball organization, but Noah Shanwell is a good baseball player, and they rushed him up here. You know, Joe Adell. Wyatt Langford. Joe Adell was rushed up here, but I know it took him a little while to get up to where he's at now.
With every prospect.
Exactly.
Ben Joyce.
Yeah.
But like Ben Joyce's debut.
Yeah. I mean, Tommy John is on the way for Ben Joyce, and I love Ben Joyce, but.
So like I think I kind of see what they're trying to do, but at the same time, when you're trying to win, it's a whole different story.
Right.
So it's sending a mixed message. So I get that 100%.
And I'm speaking for me too. So I want that. No, I get you. War Media is not saying fuck PCA and he looks like Machine Gun Kelly. No, Mike Hughes is saying, like, I'm telling you that right now. I cannot
unsee that.
Like, I'm standing on it. Like, it's just like, sometimes you just gotta be a dickhead. And I know that sounds horrible. And I know I went on a whole long rant, and I'm sorry. It's 2:08. We were supposed to finish at 2, but I went too long. But bro, like, you can't just, like, man, I messaged Miles, and I'll save that for another time. But I messaged Miles something the other day that I know him and his dad were talking about a lot. And it's like, those are the type of conversations. If Miles wants to speak on it, he can speak on it. But like, it's just one of those things where it's like, I'm looking at the same dude with a different number on the back of his jersey. And that's really what it comes down to. The same white dude, different number on the back of his jersey. You know, I love that's, you know, the culture of Wrigley Field and the north side of Chicago, but that doesn't mean the players have to look like the fans too. You know what I mean? And we talk about it all the time about the diversity of this team and what the future looks like. But like, I mean, come on, bro. Like, I wouldn't pick me to play second base or shortstop. So why would you? So you're like, you know what I mean? So and again, that's no shot at Nico or Dansby. It's just like, from what I'm seeing, the energy, the guys you're bringing into this room, you know, it's tiring. I'm tired.
Just carbon copies of the same dudes. Like, it makes Michael Bush, Patrick Wisdom, Nico Horner, David Bodie, Miles Mastrobuoni. Who are these guys going to fight? Which one of these guys are going to get thrown out of it? Dansby Swanson's going to get thrown. What? What? Cody Bellinger got hit in the hand and his hand's fractured. The Cubs didn't do anything. They did nothing. You can't get away with that with some of these other teams. Are you kidding me? You put out our star player? What? Come on, man. It's just.
Yeah, I mean, after all that, Gabe, you sat back and listened.
Sorry, Gabe.
No. It's,
I see. I see that it ain't no different with on the north side. Like, I know a lot of miserable ass White Sox fans. I understand the miserableness when it comes to the North Siders, especially with the expectations that they had considering the way that they finished the season last year. Because last year, I'm not gonna lie, they did look like a playoff team until about like the final 3 weeks of the regular season. And in my, I kind of felt like once Candelario went out, they kind of shit the bed a little bit.
Yeah,
that's my personal opinion. But I was willing to give them a little bit of leeway because they had exceeded a lot of my expectations for where I thought they would be. But I did think that they were a team that could compete for a wild card spot this year, if not potentially a division championship. And when you have the April that they had and you don't capitalize on that, that is a bummer. Where the Cubs are right now kind of reminds me of where the White Sox were 2 years ago off of a division championship in 2021. You thought that it was the beginning of something more, and all of a sudden you're hovering around 500. Right. And 1 week you're winning 5 in a row, and then the next week you're losing 5 in a row. And it's like, well, what kind of team are we? And like I told you guys a few weeks ago, I need to see more consistency out of Ian Happ. When Ian Happ was hitting, offense looked good. Dansby, came up with a couple hits himself. Offense looked good. When your guys ain't hitting, it don't matter how great your pitching is. And I got some numbers from the homestand that just really make me understand why I said what I said before we went to the All-Star break. I said, wake me up after the St. Louis series. Because I wanted to see whether or not this offense was for real. And they kind of are what I thought they were, and rest in peace to Dennis Green. But like, as a team, the Cubs hit a .191, had a .271 on-base percentage, .258 slugging percentage, combining for a .529 OPS with 9 runs scored in a 6-game homestand, in which they finished 1-5. They left 50 runners on base and batted a .179, 7 for 39 with runners in scoring position. And Craig Counsell said what I know a lot of people didn't want him to say, but it's the truth. We pitched well, we didn't score enough runs.
Right.
That's what it boiled down to. Could he have done a better job of fighting for his players, especially on Friday? Because I saw that game on Friday against the Diamondbacks where that umpire just was like, he had a very interesting, to put it nicely, a very interesting zone. And I'm going to tell you something. If I was a manager, I would have gotten ejected because I would have definitely had some words with him in between innings, and even as those calls were being called.
You remember that Dusty Baker against St. Louis? Remember he was like, "You're a punk. You're a fucking punk. Fuck."
That's a game that would have made me shed a few expletives, and I definitely would have made sure I wasn't on no microphone. But the umpire would have known, and I can understand why fans wanted to see some fight from Craig in that regard. And I think that did set the tone for the series, and when I hate to say this, but it's just the truth. And I'm not saying this just because I'm a White Sox fan, but when I watched the Cubs in the midst of like their years when they went to 3 straight NLCS, the players on that team, they had a little bit of fight in them. You know what I'm saying? I always thought, coming from the South Side, they was a little soft. Even like in the early 2000s, guys had some edge to them up north. I damn sure don't see that now. I'm with you on that, Miles. Like, I don't see that. And I don't really see it on the South Side either, but it's very telling when you don't see it up north for a team that has that amount of money invested into their payroll. And even though you have that money invested into your payroll, you're not spending to address the positions of need. And that's the biggest issue. And that's why I think you see guys like PCA up here. Right. Because from the outside looking in, I look at a guy like Alexander Canario and I'm like, man, why y'all ain't gave him a shot? PCA ain't cutting it for you. Like,
I mean, Miles was with me, bro. We were at the same game. Here's Alexander Canario finally gets an opportunity, huge home run all the way on the Waveland, and then I remember back to AAA.
I remember that.
what are we doing?
Why is that?
I think with Canario, they see, this is not my words. I've heard this in some reporters say this, how the Cubs see Canario is they kind of see him like Nelson Velasquez, where like they got power, but it's a lot of swing and miss where they don't know how to select pitches and like the right pitches to hit. But I was right with you guys too, because I'm like, why not give Canario a chance? But maybe that's the way they see him. They don't see him as a guy in the long term. But at the same time, does it hurt putting him in the lineup though?
Right.
Does it hurt trying it?
What happened to Nelson when he went to Kansas City?
Well, he was hot at the beginning of the season, but he sucks again.
But you know what I'm saying though? He did figure it out, and he did get hot, and he did hit over 25 home runs that year. Like we would kill for 25 home runs on one of these teams other than Christopher Morel right now. Like I think that's like Saul again. I'm ranting and I'm mumbling and I'm going wild, but like, man, bro, like what do I have to see? What do I have to see for this to change? And the unfortunate part of it is like, you ever been to one of those work parties and everyone's just kind of with their own, like they're doing their own thing. And it's like, that's kind of how this team feels, to the point I made earlier, and Gabe and Miles reiterated it. Like, I'm not asking you to have a souvenir home run company like Brizzo did, Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo, best friends till the end. Their wives, make cookies together. It's awesome. But like, I'm just asking you to give a fuck about each other. And that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. I don't see this team care enough to say, hey, I want to win with y'all. Like, I want this to happen for us. If they win a ball game, yeah, cool. Go get the bubblegum bucket helmet and yeah, we're lit. Like, this is fun. Let's shoot it for the camera so Marquis can post some pretty pictures. But like, at the end of the day, like, I don't see anybody other than 2 to 3 people truly care what happens to this ball club. And that Shota Imanaga, who just fucking got here. And then you have guys like Justin Steele who are trying. Hey, I told everybody, wake the fuck up. Okay, cool. We did that for a game. Then we went right back to what we do. And that's what it comes down to. Like, when you don't hear from your middle of the infield, I think that's a problem. I don't know if you guys would agree. I don't know if Gabe would agree. If your guys at shortstop and center field and first base and your catcher and your second baseman are not vocal leaders of this team, who is your leader of the team? You can't tell me it's Craig Townsend, because that's you need a player who's the captain of this fucking team, and we don't have him.
No, Mike Wright. And I'm gonna tell you why Mike Wright, because in 2022 with the White Sox, following that team as closely as I did, I could tell you that the 2 biggest leaders in that clubhouse, vocal leaders, were Lance Lynn and Liam Hendricks. And that was an issue that I had as a fan, because as much as I know that Tim Anderson didn't want to be thrown and thrusted into that leadership role or spot, like the difference between the pitchers versus position players is the pitchers only taking the ball, the starters, they're only taking the ball every 5th day.
Right.
And your closer only getting in when you got a lead in the top of the 9th or the bottom of the 9th, depending on whether you're on the road or at home. So you want your guys that are positional players to be the vocal leaders in a clubhouse that's taking the field every day. That's nicked up and battered up. You want those guys to be the voices of your clubhouse, because it shouldn't come from the pitchers. It's great to see the fieriness from a Justin Steele in the middle of a game, but like, if I'm a position player and I see that, I need to step up my leadership too. And sometimes everybody ain't gonna be vocal. Sometimes it's just about getting to the ballpark a little bit earlier. Mm-hmm. But one thing I will say, just being a part of a team, regardless if it's baseball or not, when you're winning, everything's cool. Because I don't have to like you as a person in order to play ball alongside of you. I don't have to like what you stand for to play ball alongside of you. But if we winning, that's going to conquer and take over all. You know what I'm saying? We're going to go out on the road together. Our family's going to spend time together. But when we're losing, it's different.
Yep.
And that's with any locker room. And it can vary from a year-to-year basis because, as you know, whether your contract, you have a multi-year contract or 1 year, players come and go. And I think when I look at this Cub roster right now, it's some pieces that they gonna sell, but they're not gonna sell off everybody. But they sure as hell ain't gonna be a buyer either, because they're not in a position to be. And what will make you feel like you should buy if you're Jed. But Jed is going to have to answer for a lot of this because there were some moves that he could have made this offseason to address some needs, and he wasn't willing to go that far. And I think that's unfortunate for the fans because when you pay Craig Counsell all this money to be the skipper of the Chicago Cubs, a hallmark franchise, not only in the National League, but Major League Baseball, and you don't give him a big blockbuster signing, and you consider how long it took to re-sign Cody Bellinger, like, man, like that sends a lot of mixed messages to your fan base. Right. And don't no fan base want to be a part of that, no matter if the market's big or small.
And you bring up a bunch of to Saul's point, because again, I love Saul and every single take he's made. None of this hostility is going towards Saul. But and he also got the Olympics hat on. We got to keep the peace, stop the violence, hold the beef. But
that's hilarious.
On a real note, I think you're gonna bring up Owen Casey, James Triantos, PCA, Cade Horton. Cool. Who's leading a bunch of 19 to 21-year-olds to the World Series? Who's it going to be? Because to your point, it's fine if it's Justin Steele, but Justin Steele's not going to war with me every single day. He's going to war with me once every 5 days. Right. I need somebody who's going to war with me. And that's what it comes down to. So I think the idea of the youth coming, hey, could Owen Casey be that leader? Cool. Could BJ Murray be that leader? That's great. Matt Shaw, fine. But I remember PCA spoke so vocally about how much a guy like Cody Bellinger meant to him. You know what I mean? And then to your point, to drag that out through the mud, it's like, Cody doesn't want to fucking be here. And I know Cody doesn't want to be here. Cody's here because the money's here. And as long as the money's here, Cody's here. But outside of that, what is your true attachment with Chicago? What is your true attachment with the organization and the ball club? And for a lot of these guys, I just don't see it. And working grounds crew and facilities for the Cubs for 4 years, I'll tell you what, Nico Horner is the first guy to show up every single day, and he's running while we're sweeping peanuts and hosing down seats. That's what he does. Maybe he's not vocal, but he's there and he's showing up. David Bodie was another guy who did a lot of that stuff. I mean, David Bodie, I'll tell you what, really quick, because Saul is tired of me. He's going to click the mute button. But I saw David Bodie out there practicing before every game way back when with the core. I never saw Rizzo. I never saw Brian. I never saw Baez. This was post 2017, post 2018. That's a problem. I never saw Jason Hayward, out there practicing before a game, warming up. Now, maybe they're in another part of the facility. Maybe they're in the ball club, wherever. That's fine. But when I see this bald ass man who don't got no business even being on the team, being the only one doing any types of warm-ups with the pitching, the entire pitching staff who warms up, they're throwing a football, they're doing their thing, playing soccer. It's cool. But like, where are the big dogs? Where is the core? And this conversation goes way past this current roster. Like, I had these same conversations 2018 and beyond, because it started to feel like outside of Anthony Rizzo and Wilson Contreras, it didn't feel like guys gave a fuck. Chris Bryant, in and out of the lineup, just trying to get healthy, trying to, not drown. He's trying to save himself. Javier Baez, has that MVP run. And after that, he can't smell himself. And it's like, after that, it's like, this team hasn't gone to bat for each other in the way I think we'd all like in a very long time. And I think that's a lot further than just this 2023, 2024 team. And that's just really where I'm at with it, Saul. I don't know. You haven't said a word in a minute. I'm sorry. How do you feel about the actual chemistry of this team is my question for you, because I see these guys and I'm like, this is a job.
No, yeah. I mean, look, for me, ultimately, I don't put too much stock into that, but that's just me. For me, I like, if they win, I'm like what kind of how Gabe said, like if a team wins, then yeah. But you guys are right. There's no fire in this. I don't see it. I'm not saying I do. All I'm saying is that if a team's winning, I don't care who the heck is on the team. Like, you could be doing like stupid celebrations that are controversial. I don't care. Sure. As long as you're hitting for me, I don't care. But they're not. You're right. There isn't much, to be seen on this team, and I can't say that I see anything that's not there. But yeah, I mean, this team is honestly who we thought they were at the beginning of the season, because I think we were optimistic, but we knew where our team was at. We knew that they didn't get enough bullpen help. We knew that they didn't get enough hitting. We know that they don't have a real star, and they're there. So I mean, it's sad, but like it's just reality hitting us, and we're seeing where this front office is taking us, which they're incremental moves that they've tried to make, which everyone always calls Jed calculated, and for some teams that might work, and for a lot of organizations it works because they have a great structure around them. But the Cubs, it hasn't worked for them since 2016, and they look, at the end of the day, the Cubs need a star. If anyone needs a guy, I'm not saying they're going to get him, but if anyone needs a guy like Juan Soto, it's the Cubs. They need a star, but the thing is, I don't think they're going to do it because they just don't sign like Jed and Tom Ricketts said. They just don't. I think that contracts like Jason Hayward, contracts like Dansby Swanson, like the kind of scared him away from going off and getting a guy like that. You know what I mean? And they should go out there and get a dude like that, but they probably won't. And that's the answer to everything, I feel like. And I know Gabe said that they're not going to be buyers, and I don't see them being buyers either. But if they do buy something, it's going to be a guy that they have years of control, and they trade a guy for years of control, because they are in a spot where they could buy and sell. I don't think they're going to go anywhere this year, but like they could be in a spot where they're thinking about, getting a guy for this year and for the future. But yeah, it's a whole, yeah. Go ahead.
I want to ask you all a question. Has Tom Ricketts gotten comfortable since winning that ring in 2016?
Yes. 100%. 100%.
Because from the outside looking in, and this has been something that me and a few of my White Sox friends have talked about, just looking, because it was like we was looking at y'all from afar back then, like, man, y'all play this right, y'all can have a little 6-year run here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he was building everything up around Wrigleyville, and I went to a couple games in 18 with some friends that I knew were season ticket holders, and I got in for free and whatnot and had some perks. But I was like,
tell me, Gabe.
Yeah. It was like,
yeah.
With a Sox fitted now. Don't get it twisted.
Oh.
But I just was watching from afar, and I'm like, yeah, y'all could really build something here.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was great when they won, because I thought it was gonna force the White Sox to do something. But it didn't work. But not like I just had to ask y'all that. Like, has he gotten too comfortable?
It makes me, and working there, especially, I don't care how much I made hosing seats and moving a tarp every morning 5 different times. But it was something that you watch it change, you watch it grow. Like, I'm gonna be so real, Mr. Negativity of the entire. I ain't even invited to the next episode because but. Like, fuck all this, bro. Like, I'm sick of it. And listen, to the Marquee Network, to my guys over there, I love you. Everybody over there does amazing things. But nobody wanted that. Nobody cares about the Zachary Hotel. Nobody cares about the DraftKings Casino. Nobody cares about how you fucked. Oh, I care. But nobody cares about the billboards that you built that fucked over all the roof houses. You had something so beautiful that when you came into this organization, you said, I grew up across the street from Wrigley Field. It was wonderful. It was great. Okay, cool. You just fucked over everything that was wonderful and great. You changed it into Wrigley World. That's what I call it, because Wrigleyville was a beautiful place. You had the McDonald's. Shit, how many times I was 15, 16 years old.
Shout out to my uncle who was a manager there for a period of time.
Man, come on, bro. Remember when we stole the Taco Bell sign after they won the championship? Now the Taco Bell not even there. Like, come on. I didn't steal it. I was just there. I just saw the shit happen. But it's we have the same conversation about the 1901 project that's going on right now in the United Center. You're going to change the West Side. You're going to try to turn the West Side into this utopia, which if you go 3 blocks down, you're probably going to get robbed or shot on the red line. And you go 3 blocks.
Madison and Pulaski homies out of this, man.
I'm just saying, Joe, like you can't have this giant ass utopia in the West Side of Chicago. Like, it just like you're trying, and then Soldier Field's trying to do the same shit. And Jerry, if he could sell, and move somewhere else, I'm sure he would. We had those conversations about Nashville. You know what I mean? So I think for me, man, the 2016 part was a part of such a bigger operation. They wanted to win that championship so bad because they knew if they did, they would have stock in this organization forever. And that's the unfortunate side of the 3 of us sitting here right now. And in that same breath also gave, because even though it's a different team and different ownership, it's the same conversation. Jerry knows, hey, they'll live off 2005 forever. Tom knows we'll live off 2016 forever. You got guys like me and Saul, like, hey, man, you could break my left arm and twist my kneecaps back, but 2016 lives on, and it does. But here's what I started to realize. I love the players. Wilson, I love you forever. JJ, I love you forever. Albert Almora, Chris Coughlin, the core, I love you forever. I don't gotta love this ownership forever, and I can't just live off of that. Like, you decided after you won 2016, you were gonna build all this other shit because it was gonna turn you into an empire, and that's great. But the foundation of what was is lost, and the idea of winning is more of a individual thing, I think, right now for the Ricketts. Our pocket's full, so we up. hey, the core broke up. Nah, they broke. We up. That's how the Ricketts felt about it. And it's like, I think for me, man, like, it's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
He's always gonna be up though. I mean, even before they won a World Series, they never had the issue drawing at the gate. That was never that. Not a White Sox. Yeah, we don't draw at the gate unless if we win.
Right. But that's what I'm saying though. They understand that.
Yeah, everybody know that. But yeah, he changed the area. But I'm focusing more on like the state of the team.
Right. Well, look at the team. Look at all the money gave and where it's all going. Is going to all this shit over here, all this shit over there, all this shit over there. DraftKings, woo, woo, woo. Okay, cool. What I'm saying is you won in 2016. Okay, I don't got to focus on the team anymore because people are going to come and see them. And no matter what, no matter who they are, because of 2016. So let's focus on the Marquee Network. Let's focus on, the Zachary Hotel. Let's focus on the DraftKings Casino, all this other stuff, the new rooftops they're trying to do. They're focusing on everything other than the team because they know, gotcha. Now everyone's going to talk about Rizzo, Bryant, and Baez forever. So that's what they're running off of. The same way we talk about the Reinsdorfs, not even with the Sox. Hey, man, they're still living off Jordan and D Rose. Like, let's be so real. I mean, people are going to show up to a Bulls game no matter who's on the court. I'll go watch Dalen Terry for 40 minutes bullshit just because I love the environment of the United Center. That's just what it is. But the reality of the situation is the team's ass, the front office's ass, and everything around the sun is ass. Like, that's what it is. And I'm talking too much, so I'm done.
No, I mean, hey, look.
Like, I fucking love you, man.
Hey, I mean, look. I mean, you got to listen to the fans, and we're fans, and we're seeing this happen, and at the end of the day, it is what it is, and I think, especially when it comes to like the whole, like, because I mean, we could talk about that for hours, dude, like the whole Ricketts and like the organization and the way things are going. But at the end of the day, business is business, dude. It was always going to happen. I thought there was, for me, like, don't get me wrong, I wish the rooftops would stay, but like, I mean, there's really nothing I could do about it. Nothing, like, they were always going to do it, bro. The money was always going to be better than whatever. It's unfortunate because it's like, you wish you could keep it like that. But at the end of the day, like, and call me crazy, but I know, like, I always think about this stuff because I know eventually it's going to be like Wrigley Field presented by Spotify. Like, it just is. And, it's crazy, and it may sound crazy, but
no, I hear you.
Barcelona changed their, they have a legendary name too. And now it's Camp Now by Spotify.
Staples Center.
So,
look at
Staples Center.
What,
like,
crypto or something?
Crypto.com. Yeah. Which I think is what I think is funny though is Staples Center is legendary, but like Staples organization, like, come on, like, that's kind of.
I mean, look at Inside the NBA is gone. You know what I mean? Because of Amazon and streaming. So
exactly.
I've been thinking I might make a diss track. I think I'm gonna do what Kendrick Lamar did. I'm gonna make a diss track on the Euphoria beat. I hate the way that you walk, the way that you. Sorry, go ahead, Gabe. My bad.
No, but change is always part of it. And like Mike said, our generation, like, if you're a Cub fan, you will always remember 2016. My generation of White Sox fans remember 2005. It's no different with my generation remembering the Bulls championships from 96 to 98. If you was watching sports as a youngster like I was as a child.
Damn, Gabe old. Sorry.
No, I ain't that old. 20. But anyway, when I look at sports, I always wish that teams understood the importance of connecting with multiple generations. Yeah. And the only way you can do that is by providing memories to each generation.
Right.
And when I look at Chicago sports teams right now, I feel very sad for the next generation of Chicago sports fans because I don't think they really have much to look forward to. No. Even with the Caleb Williams thing, like, it's a lot of questions, and I'm at the point where it's like, you got to show me. Because even though I came up in Chicago, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a diehard Bears fan on the level that my father is. Right. Because my father saw a championship. I didn't. You know what I'm saying? So I looked at elsewhere. I study other organizations across America because of the way in which Chicago sports is set up.
Exactly. It's weird. And it's
it's unfortunate.
Would you agree? Like, this is, man, I love talking to y'all because we just go way longer than we should. I know Saul's stop talking, but
no, it's all good. I mean, hey, we're yapping, and you know what? At the end of the day, it's a venting session, bro. You know what I'm saying?
This is what I'm thinking, right? Outside of the Chicago Blackhawks, do you really, from let's say 2000 on, just because I'm a young baby, if I had a kid and say 5 years from now, my kid's asking me about sports, God bless, please be a boy. But in that same breath, am I gonna talk to you about seasons or players? That's the problem. Am I gonna talk to you about the Chicago Bulls winning championships or the legend of Derrick Rose or the time Dwayne Wade played on the team? Am I gonna talk to you about Devin Hester and Brian Urlacher just straight up because they never won shit? You know what I mean? Like, sure, you go to a Super Bowl, we lost. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm also a Volunteers fan, so that hurt my heart because Peyton Manning did it to us. But like, whatever. But like, even with the Cubs, outside of 2016, all of Chicago sports, outside of the Blackhawks dynasty, since 2000, all I'm talking to you about is the players that have come before us. That's all you talk about because there's not much else to go off of outside of 2016 and 2005 and the Blackhawks dynasty, which is a lot, by the way. That's hella championships. But I'm saying, like, from the Bears perspective, I'm just naming players. From the Bulls perspective, I'm just naming players. From the Cubs perspective, outside of the core, ain't shit going on. Starlin Castro, there was a time where Junior Lake lived in my head rent-free. Like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, there's a bunch of different instances where we're just looking at this organization. I mean, even me, covering the sky. Courtney Vandersloot, Elena Delle Donne, Kalia Copper, Candace Parker, great. But the organization itself hasn't won other than that one season. So like this, we as a city only remember the players more than we remember good times because there's not a lot of fucking good times.
Yep.
You're going to tell your kids about seasons, but you're not going to tell your kids about seasons that you enjoyed. You're going to tell them about the season that you had the most pain.
Hey, that season we almost won. Remember that time we almost did it.
And you know what? Don't get me wrong. As a White Sox fan, I was born in 93, but I treasure 93 because my mother lived through it. You know, I have a lot of the merchandise and the memories, signed balls and stuff like that, the videos I was shown as a child. But I'm like, man, that was 31 years ago. I want a new 93. I want a new 2000. I remember being in Soldier Field as a 7-year-old when the White Sox clinched against Minnesota and the Bears was getting killed by the Lions. I'm like, damn, we got to go back home. The White Sox just won a division. Like, they're playing Seattle. I remember my grandfather, rest in peace, my grandfather, was at game 2 at the LDS, and I was mad because I couldn't go because my mom wouldn't let me skip school. And I had a ticket. You know what I'm saying? But and by the time 05 came, my mom was no longer with the White Sox, but I was tuned in to every game. I would do my homework before games, you know, sometimes late at night because I just knew I was watching history. And I was so busy trying to compare the 05 team to the 93 team as a 12-year-old. Like, that was a summer I'll never forget. But that 12-year-old that's coming up now doesn't have that chance. And I feel, and when I feel bad for the White Sox as a fan, no different than Cub fans, like, that may be older. I'm looking at it from the youth perspective. Like, damn, I ain't getting a chance to see what I saw. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause I saw
be so real, bro. I mean, look at a 10-year-old kid today, loves baseball, born in Chicago, post All-Star break. We have not combined for 20 runs as both teams.
Yeah.
That was when was the fucking All-Star break? When did that end? So do you
19.
Like,
well,
it is
the
25th.
second half started.
A week ago. Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about? 10 runs? We got, I mean, who just scored 20 runs the other day? I mean, Colorado, like, come on, like, what are we talking about? Like, these are problems. Like, this ain't even war media no more. This is just a therapy session. This is just what it is. Like, I'm charging all y'all.
My diss track. We're doing good here.
For real.
But like, it's just like, you know, you're trying to sell me a product that I've seen you try to sell time and time again to generation to generation, and it's all across the board. Like, in that same breath, I'll throw a little positivity in there just for Saul's sake. I don't want him to have an aneurysm. I do think the beauty of everybody being dog shit at the same time is just like Florida. Florida had all these different teams going to the Stanley Cup, going to the Super Bowl, going to the World Series not too long ago. They were all bad at the same time once upon a time. Hopefully the Bears, the Bulls, the Hawks, everybody clicks at the right time. Cubs, Sox, and maybe we'll have, hey man, we'll be celebrating year round. That's the hope. You would hope, but more times than not, it's just a rebuild turned to a retooling, which is going to inevitably turn into another rebuild. And that's where I get frustrated, bro, is because it's like, it's the same shit, different team. And I said that earlier about, it's just a different white guy with a different jersey on the back. It was, you know what I mean? It's just what it is. And it's like, it's the frustration of that. And it's,
and have you noticed how the fans in this city have become so comfortable with rebuilding that when they even have a championship situation, they really don't know how to appreciate it until years after the fact. And that's always boggled me, because I always say I've been blessed to see an NBA championship, a World Series championship, a Stanley Cup that I never thought I would see. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the biggest hockey fan. Yeah. But when Patrick Kane scored that game-winning goal, I remember where I was when I saw it. And I remember who I was with, and I remember gunshots going up on the block to celebrate. That was a big deal. Yep. The WNBA championship, that was a big deal. So, like, I'm glad to say that I've seen all of that. But some of these kids, man, like 05, next year is a White Sox fan. We'll be celebrating the 20th anniversary of the 05 World Series championship. And I talked to my grandmother about this, who was about to turn 86 in November. And I'm like, I really can't believe that's been 20 years ago. But it's a new generation that ain't gonna have no connection to that. And I can't old. Them, but they don't know.
Nah, yeah.
I'm never old.
You old.
Hey, Gabe.
Damn. How old was you in 2005, Gabe?
Hey, Gabe. Like I tell
I'm just getting wiser. That's how.
Hey, like I tell my nieces, they say I'm old. I'm like, I'm old to you, but I'm young to the world, and that's a damn fact.
Yeah.
That's a damn fact.
Yeah, last show we had Bible verses from Gabe. Yeah. Now we got Riz from Saul.
Hey man, you got to, man.
Knowledge. You gotta bless him with knowledge.
Old enough. Like,
gotta hit him with knowledge. Gotta hit him with knowledge. But and Chicago fans, we could talk 3 days about, even more probably about all that we've suffered as fans here and all that. And we definitely, but I think that's a good place to wrap things up. Next time we'll talk about the trade deadline and what happened, because we're going to be talking so much. Like I hope we get to talk a lot of deals, and maybe you never know. We'll talk about some trade packages, the White Sox guy and all that stuff. So I want to thank, as always, my co-host Miles Porter, as well as Gabe Wilkins. You can catch him on the State of Gabe, as well as Mike Hughes. You can catch him on TikTok, the Shy Kid, as well as give us a shot. Give us a shot podcast. There you go. And check out all the content on there. Check out all our other stuff too with Slam Society on War Media, Sean and Maya as well, Lakina and Sid on Second City Sports. So for Saul Rodriguez, thank you for watching the At Bat podcast, and we'll check you next time.